Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today is the final day of Magic 30 and the final day of the Magic 30th Anniversary Celebration event on Arena, which is the Mixer Premier Drafts here, which is a pretty random draft format. There's basically 8 random sets in Pack 1, 8 in Pack 2, and 8 in Pack 3. There are different sets in each pack. I do have the list of every set that they are because it is the same every time, but it basically makes it a Chaos draft format, a Mystery draft format, where there's just cards from everything all around. It's completely uncurated, it's completely random stuff from these sets. Sometimes you're going to open Total Poop, and sometimes you're going to open a Hullbreaker Horror Pack 1 Pick 1 that we will happily take and play some giant crabs, do the whole crab rave dance and everything on our opponents here. Shouldn't really have to explain Hullbreaker Horror to anybody. If you've played any Standard, any Alchemy, any Limited in Innistrad Crimson Vow, you know the card already. Completely bonkers card. Flash 7/8 can't be countered, completely takes over the game as you bounce everything your opponent tries to do back to their hand. So excellent bomb rare to open up Pack 1 Pick 1. For Pick 2, we could go for a really annoying green-blue counterspell heavy deck, like a flash deck that's all about playing stuff just during our opponent's turn. Frilled Mystic is a very good deal if you can cast it. It is difficult to cast. 2 green and 2 blue is hard to hit even if your deck's only 2 colors, because you need to draw your mana perfectly evenly. So it's tremendously hard to play if we try to splash in a third color or anything. That being said, it's really powerful when it resolves, and it's one of the strongest cards in the pack, so I'm kind of happy to just scoop it up here. Alternatives are Rumbling Rockslide. Removal is really important to pick up in this format. It seems like people draft it really highly, so I've ended up with a lot of decks that were just far too little removal, so that can be a big deal. But I really like the idea of going for a very specific kind of archetype here with Frilled Mystic, because that's really not what you should do in the Mixer drafts, so it makes it what I want to do all the more, you know? Mixer drafts, the best way to play it is to try to stay as open as possible and just take cards that are generally good deals. Don't go for very specific, very narrow archetypes, because they're not likely to pay off when the packs are as random as they are. So that's the general idea. But that's not what I'm doing here. I'm going to go all flash all day long. And speaking of flash, we've got Tamiyo's Completion. You know, sometimes you can just win a lot of coin flips, a lot of D6s in the drafting process itself. And if we just keep getting past instant speed stuff, I'll treat that as some good RNG in our favor. So Tamiyo's Completion is a 4-mana removal spell. It is going to tap something down and keep it tapped as long as it stays on the board, so it just gives us another thing to do at instant speed, so it makes it easier to hold up counter spells or draw spells or any instance like that. So I like Tamiyo's Completion a lot here. Moon Circuit Hacker is another really powerful card. Honestly, the 3 Kamigawa cards in this pack are just super good. Moon Circuit Hacker, you get to bounce a card to your hand with that ninjutsu ability, so if you have a good enter the battlefield effect, like that on Frilled Mystic, it's sweet. And Harmonious Emergence is also sweet. It's basically a 5-mana 4/5 Vigilance Haste. It's just a really good deal, so that was a pretty excellent pack, but we're going to take the instant there, the Tamiyo's Completion, and go for a draw-go kind of strategy, where we cast everything during our opponent's turn if we can, and keeping up with that, Scattered Thoughts is a very good card draw spell. It lets you dig 4 cards deep into your library and put the best 2 cards into your hand and the rest into your grave. So this is really good at helping dig for very powerful bomby plays like a Hullbreaker Horror, because it's going to dig relatively far into the library. Pretty happy to take that. Other sweet cards, Reassembling Skeleton can be a lot of fun if you've got some self-mill or some discard. Or some sacrifice, not discard. Other than that, though, relatively weak pack. I'm pretty happy to take Scattered Thoughts. Okay. Here's a Disruption Protocol, which in the deck we're currently drafting looks like it should be pretty good. 2 blue and 1 to counter a spell, so just cancel. Cancels and counterspells in general get a lot better the more instants that you have, because then you're not punished for holding up a counterspell on a turn where your opponent doesn't play something. Because then if your opponent doesn't play something, you just play Scattered Thoughts. That being said, I don't expect counterspells to be particularly popular in this draft format. I suspect we can wheel a lot of them and get them later on. So I might actually, because I'm only 1 card deep into green, just take the 100% best card in this pack regardless of color, which would be Falconwrath Celebrants. 5 mana for a 4/4 menace is a pretty big deal, and getting 2 blood tokens is a really good way to mitigate flood in the late game. Let you discard any extra lands you're drawing and hit some better stuff. So we'll go for Falconwrath Celebrants there. And then here's some red-green fixing. which could help us if we're trying to splash a 3-color kind of deck here, but again, I don't think I'm playing Frilled Mystic if I end up being 3-color, so these wouldn't be useful in a deck with Frilled Mystic in it. And these blue cards are pretty good, both Thieving Otter and Anticipate. Thieving Otter letting us draw a card whenever it damages an opponent, and Anticipate being another instant speed little card draw spell. We are massively low on creatures right now, especially in blue. I guess we have 3 creatures and 2 non-creatures, but if we're looking at blue cards alone, we have 2 non-creatures, 1 creature. I guess it's early enough we don't have to worry about that too much, but I do like Thieving Otter. Probably not supposed to take it over Anticipate, though. We'll take Anticipate. Stick to my silly strategy of trying to take every instant speed spell, and we can keep it up with a Prying Eyes. 6 mana to draw 4, then discard 2. Pretty dang good. There's an okay green card, the Saproling Migration. Fade into Antiquity was quite good in Kamigawa, but definitely a lot less good in this mixer draft format. You can't rely on your opponent having good artifacts or enchantments anymore. I'm gonna roll with the Prying Eyes. Maybe we just get to be mono blue. Ooh, Sift is not an instant, but it's huge card draw. Draw 3, then discard 1. This pack's insane. This pack has a Shock for instant speed removal against cheap creatures, and a Twisted Embrace for removal against any creature or planeswalker. This pack's absurd. Sift is so good, so efficient card draw. But these removal spells are phenomenal. I kind of want to take Shock and head towards blue-red spells. Falconwrath Celebrants at the top end. But Sift is so dang good, and Twisted Embraces too. Wow, 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 wow. Another Anticipate from a different set. Alright, join the party. Come on in. We're not going to play Security Bypass. Our creature count looks like it's going to be monumentally low. I'm probably just going to 0-3 this draft because I'm going to run like 0 creatures, but I'm going to have a good time with it. It's going to be a silly deck. Pyrespawn's an okay late game card. Steelclad Spirit, honestly, just a 3-3 blocker, slow our opponent down might be what we're looking for. This pack is bad. All of these cards are pretty terrible for everybody except Harmonious Emergence, so I guess I'll take that. My stomach's getting pretty angry at me. I'm going overtime today on recordings, so it is a couple hours past lunchtime because I just recorded a draft that I started at lunchtime, and I'm recording another draft now, and I still have not eaten lunch. So you might hear some cameos from my stomach. These cards are just bad, even though they're more on color. Now we can kind of coin flip between red and green here. It looks like there's more red being passed around than green. So we'll probably end up blue-red, but we'll see. If I can just open up like lightning bolts and lightning strikes and stuff, this could be awesome. I guess I'll take the Timber Gorge here over and Antagonize, again, because our creature count is going to be so low that combat tricks will be really bad. Finale of Eternity. Now I am in the universe where I wish that I took the Twisted Embrace. Had I taken a Twisted Embrace, we'd have a beautiful, beautiful blue-black deck here. This is still a ridiculously good card that I think I'm going to take, because we have so many blue cards that we can easily pivot into whatever we want as our second color, and I feel like Finale of Eternity is a powerful enough card to do that, to just decide, okay, never mind all these red cards, never mind all these green cards. Black is the secondary color now. We're going to roll with it. Finale of Eternity going to be the pick there. Okay. That's a big never mind. Kari Zev, Skyship Raider. Almost as good as Finale of Eternity if we can build a really aggressive deck around it, which is going to swap our deck from like blue-red late game control spells to blue-red tempo, where we play a bunch of cheap creatures and then use our spells to keep a controlling lead on the board state. Kari Zev's ridiculously good, though. Every time this attacks, you're attacking with a 1/3 First Strike Menace and a 2/1 Monkey. It's very dumb. Very dumb. Very good card. Beacon Bolt is also very, very good for the more controlling kind of build that we're going for with the Hullbreaker Horror, but it's a little more likely to wheel. It's not guaranteed, but it's infinitely more likely to wheel than Kari Zev, and Kari Zev's really strong. So I'm going to go Kari Zev here. Really crossing our fingers. We're going to see if we are whitelisted and we wheel the Beacon Bolt. That would be incredible, but it probably won't happen. See what we have now. Aether Poisoner's okay in black. Little Death Toucher that spits out a servo. But Red Dragon's a solid finisher for our blue-red deck. 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer that deals 4 to your opponent when it hits the board. So basically a 6 mana 4/4 flying haste. Do a lot of damage real quick. These other red cards are okay, but I like the Red Dragon most. Oh no. Oh no, this pack is bad. There's an okay black card, the Direfleet Interloper, the Soul Savage, so okay black stuff. Very good white stuff, Dawnfeather Eagle or All Seed of Life's Bounty. And then just horrible green, pretty bad red, pretty bad blue. Unfortunate. The 2 colors we're really not dabbling with are the best in this pack. Guess I'm just taking a Pixie Guide as a decent blocker, because I'm pretty convinced now I'm pushing towards blue-red. Giving up on that finale and going for the Carry Zev instead. Alright, and now we've got excellent, efficient removal, which makes me even happier about heading in this direction. This is a 2 mana to deal 3 damage to a creature. A lot of words to do that, but that's because it does a lot of different stuff. In the Kaladesh format, you can bank a bunch of energy and spend it later, but in the Mixer draft, it's just 2 mana, 3 damage to a creature. Instant speed. Perfectly solid, cheap removal. It's instant speed as well, which is beautiful. But yeah, happy to be going down the red path. The one thing that really got me to take Carry Zev and jump onto red is because the big question wasn't necessarily, is Carry Zev better than Finale of Eternity? And more, is Carry Zev and Shock and Falcon Wrath Celebrants better than one Finale of Eternity? So that was kind of the tiebreaker there. Just wanted to mention that. My brain is just bouncing around all over the place. It's probably hard to follow everything I'm trying to say right now. Just excited right now. We're playing more Mixer drafts, the final Mixer draft. It's a hard choice. Manticore is a super good late game card, and I don't have like any kicker yet. But theoretically, there's kicker in multiple sets on Arena, where this Roost can give us multiple Drakes, which is cool. Also, Prosperous Pirates can do some stuff that's fun, but I think it's the Manticore. This seems like a pretty good win con. Gigantic 4/5 that comes with a 2/2 as well. Really nice stat line, just a bunch of creatures late game. Aether Hub is okay. I don't think Minister of Inquiry, Skophos War Leader, or Sneaking Guide will all be that exciting for the deck, so just take an Aether Hub. It can help us randomly hit a double red or a double blue that we weren't prepared for. And just provide colorless mana when we don't need the fixing. These cards all look bad. I guess Windstrider makes a bit of sense in this deck. We're trying to play a lot of instants. Yep, this seems a little too slow. We definitely don't have enough rogues to play around with that. We have 0 rogues. Carry Zev's not a rogue? Oh yeah, she's a pirate. Okay. Leapfrog? Hilarious name. Hilarious ability. Not very good though. Very low toughness. Got any wizards in here? 1. Alright, Chilling Trap doesn't seem like where it's at. Frontline Rabble has to attack each turn. Bad in some spots. Gatekeeper Gargoyle's definitely bad. We'll just take a Leapfrog, I guess. Take the funniest name. Grotag Bugcatcher. 2 mana 2/2 trample whenever it attacks, no matter what. If we have a wizard out, it's better. If we have a cleric out, it's better. We don't have any clerics. Alright, it's actually not great. Maybe it's Wall of Mist. Can't imagine a 2 mana 0/5 being all that impressive, though. I'm going to take the Bugcatcher. That might be dumb. Tranquil Cove. Come on in. Bunch of stuff we're not playing. To finish off the pack, and we just need to find, I was going to say 5 more, we just need to find 4 more playables in the final pack, because one of these cards is a land. So 4 more playables will put us at a 23 non-land, 17 land deck. Pretty perfect blue-red spells deck we've ended up with here. Take advantage of our Hullbreaker Horror and a lot of instants. I want some counterspells. I wish I took that counterspell. I'm surprised that counterspell didn't wheel and that we've seen like 0. So what do we have here? Probably Cathartic Pyre. 2 mana for 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker is a pretty excellent deal. You can also discard up to 2 cards and draw that many cards, so really, really efficient instant speed removal. Capture Sphere is also instant speed removal though, and Roaming Ghostlight's just a really good deal. 5 mana for a 3/2 and you bounce a creature your opponent controls, slow them down and just get chipping in. It's a really good tempo play, which is the other thing our deck looks like it's trying to do. Be a bit of a tempo aggro deck with Karizev. Actually, we might be low enough on aggressive cards like creatures that we actually want that really solid tempo flyer in here. This is awkward because we're not going to wield a Cathartic Pyre, but I actually think Roaming Ghostlight's just a phenomenally good rate. Super, super good card. Now we have a Craven Hulk, which is fine. 4 mana 4/4. Ooh, Aerial Guide though. 3 mana 2/2 flyer, gives other creatures flying as it attacks. Can be big curving into that after a Karizev or Grotag Bugcatcher, or any non-flying 2-drop. So yeah, Guidance, Impede Momentum look just okay. Probably one of the creatures. Guidance, we need Clerics, Druids, Shamans, Warlocks, and Wizards, which we don't have a lot of. No Clerics, no Druids, no Shamans. 2 Wizards, yeah. Mentor's Guidance is bad here. We'll take Aerial Guide. Karn's Silex. A Wrath in a can, a little board wipe there. Our opponent knows when it's coming, but still a board wipe. And these other cards are not very impressive, they're just fine. Buccaneer's Bravado, give our Karizev double strike. That's pretty narrow. Take the Wrath. Alright, obviously Lightning Strike is absurd. Nebelgast Intruder is also pretty great. Circara is a card draw engine, but we actually have a lot of 5s right now, it looks like. A lot of 5s and 6s and stuff, so a lot of good late game stuff. I think I just want another cheap removal spell. Weirdly enough, I just want to take the Lightning Strike over Circara or Nebelgast Intruder. Flowstone Infusion, come on in, more cheap removal. It's between that and Teferi's Protege as a way to keep drawing cards. Heckma Sentinels, not enough cycle or discard to go crazy with that. We'll take a Flowstone Infusion. Countervailing Winds is a counterspell I absolutely love in these kind of decks, because we just play a couple card draw spells like Anticipate and like 1 shock, and then this is already God, I already forget what it's called. Mana Drain? Not Mana Drain. The other one. This pack is so good though. There's a Mutiny in here, which is cheap removal. Shimmer Scale Drake, which we can cycle in. It's a flyer later, but this, I'm going to take the counterspell. This is our first counterspell. Put it in the deck. Why can't I remember Mana Leak's name? Mana Leak was the card I was thinking of. Countervailing Winds. Pretty easy to get it to be counter unless your opponent pays like 3. And then if you draw this late game, it's almost always counter unless they pay 1,000,000. Burying Books is quite good as well. 3 mana to put an attacking creature into its owner's library second from the top slows them down quite a bit. I like Burying Books. Ogiar Battleseeker was never that good. Just, I don't know, it never quite got there. Just kind of unappealing stat line for the cost. Redcap Melee's fine. Right, if we really need to kill something, sacking a land is not horrible. And if we're playing against red, we're going to be having a very good time with the card. Then it's just 1 mana, 4 damage to a creature. And we're incredibly happy. Yeah, Redcap Melee is kind of like the oh crap button. It's like, if you really need to kill something, then okay, do it. This all sucks, right? Immolation might be okay. It's like a sorcery speed Flowstone Infusion. Feels significantly worse. Immolation is an absolute classic, though. I'm pretty sure this card got printed in Alpha, the very first Magic set ever. Somewhere very early. So that's kind of cool, but I don't think we're doing that. It's going to be a cool deck today. Very different to the Simic 5-color nonsense I played around with yesterday. I don't think Impede Momentum affects the board long enough to be super worth it here. If you're really aggressive, Impede Momentum can be good, but I don't actually think we're going to be closing out that many games that quickly. Ideally with Impede Momentum, for it to be a great card, you want to be the kind of deck that can close out the game within those 3 or 4 turns after you cast it, so you want to be wildly aggressive. I don't think we quite made it there. Sailor of Means is legitimate here. A 1/4 blocker really holds down the fort for a bit, and getting that treasure token lets us cheat out our Hullbreaker Horror return early. Sailor Means is a sick card. That's actually a really nice pickup. Entangler's not horrible. Mana Worker is in this 2-color deck. Alright, we get to really adjust this deck and really streamline it towards whatever we want it to do. Don't think we're going to play Mana Worker or Bravado. Those can just be insta-cuts. Alright, the rest we'll figure out here. So we have a lot of stuff here. We have 18 creatures, way more than we need, and 13 non-creatures. Average aggressive limited deck that's creature-based is like 15 to 17 creatures, but I don't think we're that aggressive, and even if we are, blue-red aggressive decks, blue-red spells aggro decks are more based around a few really good evasive creatures, and then just, shooting the opposing threats that are cheap to get those few creatures to keep getting in. So we can go down to like 10 creatures here and still be pretty happy, so let's... that would just be cut 8 creatures and call it a deck. I mean, that's a possibility. I guess I'll look at the non-creatures first, see if there's anything really bad. Yeah, like 10 to 12 creatures is fine for this sort of deck. No, I think all of our non-creatures are pretty great. Let's just cut 8 creatures and we're good. Nefcrop Entangler is one of the worst little cheap aggro dorks. Although I guess Bugcatcher's probably the actual worst. So it's a warrior. We don't need to count warriors. How many others do we have? We have a coward in our deck? Wait a second, who's the coward? Oh, the giant. Oh, giant coward. What a sad creature type. I'm sorry, Craven Hulk. But they gotta really... They really had to treat Craven Hulk like that. That's unfortunate. Okay. So I couldn't resist. I saw we had a coward in the deck. I'm like, what is that about? So we have 3 wizards and that's it. Because warriors don't matter. It already counts itself on the warrior front. So we have 3 cards in this deck that make this attack as a 2-mana 3/2. That feels probably inconsistent enough to be one of the worst cheap aggro dorks. Wizard does set up draws, but not great. Steelclad Spirit, I think we're actually just playing aggro creatures rather than defenders. Pixie Guide is literally just doesn't do anything. It's just a 2-mana 1/3 flyer. It's almost definitely getting cut. Carfell Harbinger lets us cast our instants and sorceries a little cheaper, but the vast majority of them are just really cheap anyway. So that also doesn't feel great. And it's much better at blocking than attacking as well. So these two feel like the absolute worst. And then this pile in the mid feels pretty mid. And then for 3 mana stuff, we have Fearful Villager. I like the Menace, the kind of hard to block. Really like the Sailor of Means. Do not like the low toughness on Leapfrog, even if we can cast a lot of instants and sorceries to jump it in the sky. We'd rather be casting our instants and sorceries in our opponent's turn anyway. I guess it's kind of a surprise blocker, but again, that 1 toughness, it's always going to trade off. It's never going to stick around, so not a massive fan of that. Aerial Guide seems solid, Sailor seems solid, Villager seems fine. It's probably better than everything in the middle stack, but worse than these two. Craven Hulk seems... I mean, it fits in the curve well. Gives us a 4-drop, but 4 mana 4/4 can't block very often. Not very exciting. Put it in the mid pile. Yeah, maybe here in the right below mid. Listen, my sorting doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense to me. I know what's happening here. 5 mana. Love me a Falconwrath Celebrants. Big, menacing threat. One of the largest creatures on board usually. And a couple blood tokens. Help make sure you don't flood. Love that card. Ghostlight also. Super efficient, super good. Windstrider's cool with all of our instants, but the least efficient of these cards by a lot. That is pretty mid. Manticore. We have some other really good late game plays, so it's quite unlikely we want all 3 between Red Dragon, Hullbreaker Horror, and Manticore, so probably cut that. Now let's just slam cut all those. then 4 more cuts to go. That means the weak but best of the week make it in. And then we get to put 4 cards back into this deck. Or we cut 4 of these and put 1 back in. I do want more cheap aggro creatures to go with Karizev. And how many wizards did I end up with remaining? Like none. So Bug Catcher seems bad, so then we put an Entangler in. I actually might want a better curve. I might want to cut Villager for another 2-drop. The 2-drops are really not great, but having more 2-drops feels good. I don't think we're ever winning a game off of Karizev aggro here. If I cut all the creatures I just did. Well, that's awkward. That's not ideal. Maybe I drop Craven Hulk then to get the Villager back in. Now at least we have 3 2s and 3 3s. So we can actually have some aggro starts to some games. Seems reasonable. Now we can actually maybe get some Karizev action. I do want 17 lands in here. I have an incredibly powerful, incredibly important 7-drop. I also have a couple blood tokens. Discard 2. Yeah, I have a couple ways to not flood out. Fisher Wizard as well as a discard 1, draw 1. So I have a couple ways to use extra lands we draw into. Yeah, I mean, the best aggro card I cut was the Bug Catcher, which is just a 2-mana 2/2 trample. So I don't honestly think there's a much better, like, aggro-focused build than this. So probably roll with this, call it a deck. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to be. How's the mana looking? 11-11? Perfect. Exactly even. Sure thing. Fair enough. Alright, here we have a look at the final deck list today. This is a blue-red spells deck. We have some of the aggro tempo-y kind of blue-red spells stuff, where we have all these cheap aggro creatures to go along with Karizev, try to win some early games that way. Using the cheap spells like Lightning Strike, Harness Lightning, Shock, Redcap, Melee, and Flowstone Infusion to keep the path clear for all the cheap dorks. And then we have the slower, grindier, more controlling blue-red deck using all the cheap removal, as I said before, this counter spell here, a board wipe with Karn Silex, a lot of card draw to help dig through our deck, double Anticipate, Scattered Thoughts, and Prying Eyes to dig for just big late-game bombs. The biggest one in particular being the Hullbreaker Horror. That should absolutely demolish some players, hopefully, but some other really big finishers like Red Dragon can close the game out pretty quickly in the sky, and Falconwrath Celebrants and Roman Ghostlight are just pretty good deals at the higher mana costs. So nice blue-red spells deck here. It plays the early game aggro and the late game control pretty decently, and I'm excited to see how it plays as we head into the gameplay. Here we are in game 1. This looks like a pretty solid keep to me. We get to hold up and anticipate, and if we don't need to lightning strike something, we can set up our draws with that. Got an Aerial Guide on 3. Got the big old Prying Eyes on 6 for a huge draw spell to try to find the Hullbreaker Horror. Solid little start here, very reactive, but we will see how things turn out. Opponent does take a mulligan to 6. I believe they're on the play, so we will be on the back foot here from the start. Alright, Swamp, pass the turn. We'll play an island and pass the turn. Thornwood Falls, they are at least 3 colors. There's an Aether Hub. We've got our 3rd land. Still need quite a few more. They're going to start with a Night Squad Commando, just a 2/3 on the ground. Doesn't feel necessarily worth striking. Lands and a Red Dragon, we need lands more here. Glowstone Infusion. Tap out for an Aerial Guide or hold up a Lightning Strike. If there's something we need to strike, we can do it in our turn. We'll play the Aerial Guide. swamp from our opponent. Send in for 2 damage. The Wandering Troubadour. We are going to shoot that before they get any more landfall triggers, letting them venture farther into the dungeon. So we'll Flowstone Fusion it. We can do that during their turn, though, before their end step. Karn's Silex is interesting. I don't think I'm going to be Silexing here, but I'll keep that in mind before I just slam down a Flowstone Infusion here. They're going to do anything pre-combat? I think that would be pretty cool. They are trying to make the Troubadour bigger, so we'll kill it in response. I believe Scale the Heights will still resolve, though. And do the rest of the effect. It won't. Oh my god. Ooh, yeah, because I guess it only had 1 target since they chose to target that. That is brutal. I can bury this Commando in books, put it back in their deck a few cards. That does slow them down significantly. We'll go for that since I'm not Silexing here, since I wanted to blow up the Troubadour before the Scale the Heights. And yeah, it's the second card. This feels nasty. 2 for 1. Countering the Scale the Heights with our removal spell. Really bad time for our opponent, and now they know next turn they're just drawing a 2-3. Here's our Scattered Thoughts here to set up our draws. Alright. Funeral the Aerial Guide, that is fine with me. There's the Hullbreaker Horror and a Countervailing Winds. I only have 5 mana here, though. I think I have to mill this Countervailing Winds and just hit the 6th land. Sad. Right now I've got a Prying Eyes available. Alright, they have a 2-3 again. Draw 4, discard Fearful Villager Mountain. We need 1 of these lands. Tempted to wait on the Hullbreaker Horror until I can cast an instant alongside it to protect it. But if they have a counterspell, I just hold the counterspell off for 1 turn anyway. Or not a counterspell, a removal spell, because it just puts it back in their hand. It doesn't counter the removal spell. But I can play a Falconwrath Celebrants and hold up 2 removal spells. So it's not really costing me anything to play really safe with the Hullbreaker Horror. I can already get a firm lead on the board. And this way I might draw their removal spells out on the weaker threat, the Celebrants. Because that's still the best card on board by a lot, so... if they have Destroy Target Creature, we can get them to throw it at that instead of this. Okay, if they have some kind of combat trick, I can shoot that. Okay, I will shoot that. I think I'd rather use Lightning Strike, because Harness Lightning can do 4 damage. Currently. Double combat trick. Okay, so they're out of cards. And now we've got a Hullbreaker Horror. Alright, I think we're good. I think we win. But we'll find out. Maybe they top deck the removal, and they blow up the Hullbreaker Horror after we cast it. We'll see. Even if they do that, though, we've got 2 blood lying around. We have the removal spells for their 1 threat. So we can still draw into a win, even if they kill Hullbreaker Horror. But if they didn't top deck removal right now, they're going to be in a super nasty spot. Season of Growth, that is not removal. And I think Hullbreaker Horror just controls this whole game now. Playing a Fisher Wizard doesn't speed up the clock, so I'm just going to hold it in hand as another way to bounce something. They play a blocker. Holding the land for the blood tokens. I probably should have already filtered it away, but I'm trying to speed the game up here since it's pretty much over. We'll just get it over with. But I am playing a little loose here because I think I can afford to. If they draw a removal spell and it's cheap enough, they can just cast it twice. Pass turn. They do lose 2 life off of that. Put them to 1. Make them spend more mana, but I can't. I'd have to make them recast it 3 times. Let's see what we can get off the blood. But I'm pretty sure I just let this resolve and then just play a couple creatures. And still be at 1 life. I guess I can bounce my own Hullbreaker Horror. That is so dumb. I think I would rather put them to 1 than bounce the Horror here. Might be wrong, but a 1 life opponent against this Menace dork feels good. I guess I can see if I draw into a shock as well. Nope. But I've got Harness Lightning and Redcap melee up to blow up their blockers, and I've got a Menace creature here. Lifelinker's good, but not good enough by itself. Kick the Lifelinker, and that should be game. Alright, melee to make it really easy. Don't have to do any math, just flunge. And we are 1-0. We'll start it off. Oh, I guess I forgot Karizev has First Strike too. I just remembered the Menace part, so I was like, well, if I attack with Karizev alone, Karizev will kill them, right? But then I was like, no, because Karizev makes a 2-1 and they can block the 2-1 and gain 3, and then Karizev only hits for 1. But yeah, Karizev has First Strike, so really didn't need to throw any removal there. 1-0 to start it off. Alright, here we are on the play for game 2. Let's go. We've got our pirate friend to get some treasure. Get us set up and have a nice big blocker. Booty so thick it dies to destroy evil. Is our opponent on here? They're on white and blue. Blue-white flyers, perchance. Don't think that would be a very good matchup for me, but it wouldn't be horrible. Alright, Prophetic Prism, draw a card. They've got perfect mana from that. They get to filter 1 mana every turn into whatever color they need. I like Countervailing Winds a lot. I like it so much. But I guess I only need 1 mana to get to Scattered Thoughts, which then gets me the rest of the mana. Yeah. This could be wrong. This could play very poorly for me. But we'll see. We'll play the Aerial Guide first. That's greedy, because the treasure token immediately sets up the Scattered Thoughts, but Aerial Guide puts the most pressure on the board, puts the most power on the board. And maybe our opponent's a very slow setup deck as well, with Prophetic Prism coming out turn 2. We got tons of cheap interaction over here, I'm into that. Ooh, Blitz in a Requisitioner to get a treasure token and draw a card. Gonna be a pretty good deal. 3 mana sorcery, deal 3 to your opponent, draw a card, get a treasure. Very, very good card. We unfortunately did not hit a land. Which means I am just going to drop the Sailor. I know I'm not holding up Countervailing Winds, but this way I have the 4th mana ready so that I get to hold up Scattered Thoughts or Countervailing Winds. Because holding up Countervailing Winds is going to play super awkwardly if my opponent plays something that only costs 3, or if they just don't play something. Because then I just do absolutely nothing with all my mana. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully anything they cast right now is small enough to just die to a Flowstone Infusion. Redcap melee doesn't look great in this matchup, but they do have red cards. They played a Riveteer's Requisitioner, so it might be okay. So this is probably not getting played till very late game, if we're shooting a non-red creature with it. Maybe one of the few games I hope my opponent hits a mountain. I hope they get their 3rd color, but again, they've got Prophetic Prism. They can cast probably any red card in their hand. Frostlinks is the play. That is going to slow me down. No aerial guide attacks for me. What else do you have? They have 2 mana up, but they'd have to sacrifice a treasure token if they need 2 mana. They do. Leonin Light's Crowd. Very happy to see that. So that means I get to infuse that thing while they're tapped out, and I don't have to worry about any tricks. And I'm still holding up a Countervailing Winds thanks to the treasure token, but we're getting pretty desperate for the land, so I would much rather not have to cast a Countervailing Winds here, so that I can use this treasure on Scattered Thoughts to get more lands. Now, if my opponent plays a bomb that costs 4 or 5 mana, I'm still going to Countervailing Winds, but just prefer that doesn't happen. Oh, they're going to put a 5/4 onto the board. Oh, that's a red card, though. So Redcap melee can kill that. Yeah, we let that happen then. And I get to keep my treasure token. And I just get to Redcap melee, kill their Cloudpiercer and their Frostlinks all in one. Unless they have a 1 mana trick. Ooh, discard a Luminous Bonds. They are digging. The main deck Redcap melee coming in hot there. There we go, 4th land. We've got the Scattered Thoughts ready. Got the Countervailing Winds ready, and that's at counter unless they pay 3 now. They have a ton of cards, though. 4 cards in their hand and 6 mana to play around with. That is scary. I think if they play any removal, I just let it happen, but if they play any threats of their own, I don't want that to resolve. Sure. Scorching Dragonfire, my 2/2. That's it. Okay. Scattered Thoughts? Maybe it's a bunch of negates. Oh, Karn Silex does not look very good here, but I'm still going to take it. Right, because I mean, I get to Red Dragon mana off just one of these lands. Tamiyo's Completion. Alright, I got all the interaction in the world. I believe they have a counterspell. And I would like my red dragon to not get countered. So we're going to play really slow. Just going to stare at each other. Hope my opponent plays a gigantic bomb that is counterable. They're playing nothing right now still. So this is awkward where their hand is like nothing but counterspells, which means I just can't play around the counterspell. Because I can't get them in a position where they're going to cast something else and tap out and not have counter mana up. And I still have everything I need to deal with everything they have. Maybe it's a bunch of removal spells they don't want to throw out a 1/4, which is another decent reason not to play a red dragon. So, I mean, I guess I'm just going to sit here and deal with everything they actually try to play. Okay. That worked perfectly for me. I guess they top decked that. I do not want that to be on the board. Do I want to put that in their library or counter it? I think I'll put it in their library. Because that'll get them to tap out again on a later turn, which feels good to me. Now I know Red Dragon resolves for now, but again, removal spells, they could kill the dragon. It's some form of interaction, because they're not playing anything of their own. Alright, it is a removal spell. Goodbye, Red Dragon. But now we have them down to 8. They are going to bind the monster, the Sailor of Means. So, we got 2 of those removal spells out of the way. Now we can Celebrance here. But we know that the Waker of Waves is coming up, so I want to hold up a Countervailing Winds for that. That's 3 mana. Still wishing we had another land here, because then I could Villager and hold up the Countervailing Winds. Celebrance is just lethal in 2 turns, though, if I just played it. Not quite, right? Because it hits them for 3 and I shoot for 3. That puts them to 1, so it would kill them in 3 turns, not 2 turns. But it is much more efficient at killing them if I play it without it getting -1, -0. So I'll do that. Another land for our opponent. Repel the Vile. All the removal all day long. We have 5 damage in our hand. If I can get 1 hit in with this Fearful Villager, the game is over. Karn Silex has looked completely useless in this deck. Been stuck in her hand all game, game 1 and game 2. Just chilling, doing nothing. I could Karn Silex for 1 to destroy the Bind the Monsters. That is very good. They get something back from their grave. Instant or sorcery for another removal spell. Cool, Scorching Dragonfire. They can cast that off of the Prophetic Prism, which means I do not get any damage in this turn. And I still have to find a way to get 2 damage in. Okay. I still don't feel like I'm on Karn Silex. I honestly think I'm going to Blood Token this thing away, because I think I'm going to complete Past Caller, hold my 5 damage in hand, and just try to find 2 more damage somewhere. Well, that's a big card. I don't want to discard that, so we'll just go to my turn now. Don't really want to discard a land either. I'm kind of cool with more mana still. Although, again, just trying to find 2 more damage. I probably do actually discard this. Okay, well. No, just play that one. Hullbreaker Horror, that's a lot more than 2 more damage. Banishing Slash, they're going to blow up Cameo's Completion and get a 2/2. Alright, I assume this should be game. Kill both their creatures and just attack for 7. That is game. Hullbreaker Horror, an absolutely disgusting card, a very easy pack 1 pick 1, gonna lead us to victory 2 games in a row, I think. Listen, my memory's horrible. I have the memory of a grape. Is that something that... No, it's memory of a giraffe, elephant, mouse? I don't know where I got memory of a grape, but that's what we're rolling with as we head into game 3. Game 3 with our blue-red spells deck. We are somehow undefeated so far. And hopefully we can just keep that rolling. I'm going to keep this hand. It's got the interaction, and then it's got the card drawn turn 4 to get us set up. as we've been trying to do. We are on the blinding board, the Kaladesh Remastered board state. iStrain.jpg. Goblin Crater Maker is the first play from our opponent. That's a pretty good one, but I am happy my opponent is on red, because that means red cap melee can do some stuff. Of course, on red meaning that they're playing red, not that I read their DM and then just let them just sit there, just hanging. Take this damage. Wait to see if they play something better. That's just a draw 2, that is not something better. Red Cap Melee is 4 damage instead of 3, but Harness Lightning can shoot blue cards. How are we blowing up the Crater Maker? Wish I had a Meteorite, that'd be flavorful. You know what, I don't know. I'm just going to anticipate. That's how much I don't know. I'm going to anticipate first. Get our 4th land. Really want another mountain here. I guess I'll play Aether Hub instead. Then I can still Red Cap Melee if I really need to. Now that I've played that, Harness Lightning can also deal 4 damage on a later turn, so I am going to Red Cap Melee the Crater Maker. Because Harness Lightning, I can get 3 energy and then spend all 4. Okay, don't need to do that, so oop that. I don't have double red if I do that right now, though. But then I can hold up Scattered Thoughts, which seems worth it. And they're blue-red, which means that card is probably very dangerous. Right, cashing in Aether Hub, the turn we play it feels kind of bad, especially with the double red card, but I want to be able to cast Scattered Thoughts this turn, and I really don't want that thing to pop off. And I'd rather have Tamiyo's Completion be able to kill bigger creatures, potentially. Right, that's a 2-1 that shoots me for 1 damage when they cast a non-creature, and that is a 2-2 that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Complete the 2-2 that gets bigger, or do I draw cards right now? Draw cards here. Alright, well, there's the red source for the red dragon, and then we'll take the sailor, I guess. Shock, what a draw. That is so perfect. So perfect. I can shock the weird and just block the archer. Then I'm letting it hit me throughout this game. I could instead complete the weird and shock the archer, but then I'm out of removal. I think I would rather have more removal backup, so I'm just going to shock the weird and just have a blocker out for the archer, so the only thing that the archer accomplishes is just 1 damage every time they cast a spell. Doesn't really break through. Alright, well. I'll trade my 1-4 into a trick. Majestic Metamorphosis. Unfortunately a trick that draws them a card, so it's not like a full trade, but we still got that thing out of the way, which is good. Kind of a lot of lands here, and we can't really play around an Essence Scatter, because I highly doubt they're just going to tap out for something here, so if they have an Essence Scatter, it should be relatively easy for them to just hold it up, because they're not under any pressure. Okay, luckily they don't have an Essence Scatter. At least the dragon hits the board for at least 1 millisecond before it reaches its untimely demise. There it is, Puncturing Blow. They do got it. Anticipate's pretty good off of the top. We were running low on gas, and that can solve that problem. Yep, that's yeah, that seems reasonable. We've got 7 mana ready and a Hullbreaker Horror to play next turn. And we just hope they don't have tap down removal for the Hullbreaker Horror. I'll tap that down. I don't want to keep bouncing it and giving them more and more blood with Hullbreaker Horror. Couple ways to discard a card and draw. So I think I'll hold like one of these lands. Alright, fingers crossed. No response. It It can't be countered, so we know that's not going to happen, but if they have their own Tamiyo's completion, that's pretty sad. I guess as soon as I get a spell, I can just bounce my Hullbreaker Horror. There's not a lot blue-red can do against this, because they need to stack up a lot of damage to kill it. And if they Charmed Sleep it, or Tamiyo's completion, if they put an enchantment on it, I can, if I draw any non-land, I can put it back in my hand and recast it. Deckhand's a problem. Can't block that. We need at least a tiny bit of gas to win this game, so we are hoping we don't draw completely dead from this point on. I don't need much to put this game firmly in my favor. Now, an opponent isn't winning on board. They need other cards to do that, but they have 3 other cards in hand we don't know about. Cauldron for 3 damage. Oh my god, Lightning Strike. That makes up for a few turns of missed draws there. A few turns of just bonus lands. Because that's just straight lethal. If they don't have a counterspell. Do I play around a counterspell here? I guess I do it in their upkeep before they draw. This way, if they have a counterspell, I can still take less damage by bouncing the deckhand. Alright, and they don't have a counterspell, so that's just game. It just feels like showboating to our opponent. My apologies, opponent. I was just trying to make sure I don't get got that much by a counterspell. And that's going to be 3-0. Hullbreaker Horror wins every game that we've played so far, because the card is completely absurd. It's a really good draft around and build around as well, because it works really well, as we've seen, in a deck with a ton of instant speed card draw, because the card draw just lets you dig for it, so it's much easier to draw at every game. And the card draw also works really well once you have it on board, because it's just another spell to bounce some stuff. So excellent stuff from Hullbreaker Horror. It's just Hullbreaker Horror's day today. 3-0, heading into Game 4. Game 4 on the play. I'll keep it. We've got an early game play. We've got the draw spell. We've got a little bit of interaction. How many times did it take me to say Hullbreaker Horror before it started, or before it stopped sounding like words to you? Hullbreaker Horror already does not sound like words to me anymore. I think Senzen is a 3-3. Alright, we didn't draw anything to do for 2 mana. By playing that immediately, if I drew into like an Anticipate or something, I could still Anticipate and not worry about the Snarling Wolf. But if I didn't draw into a 2-drop, then it would have been better to wait till they dumped mana into the Wolf. That way if they had a 2-drop of their own that they could play, we stopped them from doing that. It looks like neither of us had anything to do on turn 2 anyway, so it would have all played out the same way. So that's all good by me. Fearful Villager versus Fearful Villager. Oh, I wish I had the emote. The Spider-Man emote. I don't think they have the Spider-Man emote in this game, but maybe. I think it's fine if we both flip. Our opponent's at the advantage if we both flip right now, because they hit for 4 a turn first. But I get to hold up Countervailing Winds and Shock by doing this, instead of just slamming down Aerial Guide here. And if I don't need to cast any interaction, I can play Scattered Thoughts instead. The very nice backup play. I cannot counter that. That doesn't cost enough mana. So I think we are going to Scattered Thoughts here. Take 4. This is really scary though, 2 very beefy menace creatures. I do need more lands, so I'm fairly certain I'm taking this island, and then Harnessed Lightning is a really good way to blow up one of those cards. I guess I don't actively need lands right now. because I don't actually have my big spells, but I know I have big spells in the deck where I will need the lands eventually. It's 100% Harness Lightning. I think it is Harness Lightning in a land. Then I can Harness Lightning and hold up Countervailing Winds. Roaming Ghostlight, that is not bad. That could even be the play. We definitely outrace a Kenra Scrapper. Yeah. 2 pretty high power evasive threats now. Outracing their board state. And I've still got these burn spells to clear out some of their stuff. And now we get to hold the counterspell for an even later gameplay. Play a Spikefield Cave tapped, so we know they have something they need double red for, or they have something they need 5 mana for, because otherwise you would never play this if you don't have extra lands in your hand. Or if you do have extra lands in your hand, so they need a 5th mana, so we know something big's coming up, so we're going to try really hard to hold up Countervailing Winds, and it's guaranteed to counter anything now. We've got 4 cards in grave. So they're going to exert the Scrapple. The Scrapple? The Scrapper. So it's going to get in for 4 damage that turn, and no damage next turn. So I only want to play 1 spell per turn still. So I am going to Harness Lightning during my turn. Although I guess it's only if a player casts 2 spells during their own turn. Okay, so I can cast 2 spells during my opponent's turn. That's fine then. Then I'll just pass. I can cast Lightning and Winds this turn, and it won't flip today. Yeah, this feels reasonable. And we have Lethal on board if we can stop whatever they try to play here. This is bold. They must have a Wrath or something. I'll just take that. We have 7 damage on the board. Hero of the Games. I can Harness Lightning that, so I'll let that resolve. And it's also not enough to block my board because I have Menace and Flying. Okay, they're going to cast 2 spells here to flip. So I'm no longer lethal on board, but I can still lethal with Shock, so we don't need to do anything here. We just win. We just attack all and then shock the face. And that'll be 4-0. We drew the Hullbreaker Horror. Didn't need it this time. Still, just really good stuff from the rest of the deck. Excellent, excellent work today. 4-0 heading into Game 5. Alright, here we are in Game 5, and the Arena Shuffler is catching up to us. This is not a keepable hand. We will mull. I almost clicked on the keep button because it was all shiny and orange and pretty. It's a little more keepable because we have interaction. It is still really bad though. Do we have to mull to 5 here? Is this how it all ends? Is this how the undefeated streak ends for us? Maybe it is. Mull to 5. Time for the boldest keep you've ever seen. Sailor of Means to ramp into Hullbreaker Horror. Let's go. That's it. That's the plan. That's our 5-card hands plan. We'll see if it works out. Oh my god! Carry Zev on 2? That's a draw. That's going to draw removal from our opponent. 100%. Red cap melee, draw it in the matchup against red again. Let's go. Main deck red cap melee, always putting in work. Never sideboard. Just put your sideboard in your main deck. They can buff the battle cry for 2 and kill my Carry Zev there, so that's why we are not blocking. Aerial Guide. I think I'd rather Sailor of Memes. Although Aerial Guide makes Carry Zev immensely difficult to block. Maybe I'll scare my opponent to just playing a bunch of removal instead of more creatures by playing Aerial Guide. Just give me more time to get my 7 lands for Hullbreaker Horror. There's no way keeping Hullbreaker Horror in this hand was right, but come on. We're gonna get there. I believe. A reach creature. A reach creature. So much for getting in with flyers. I guess I'm trading off. I'll trade there. Trading with Battlecry Goblin's also tempting. Okay, run amok, that's fine. Not good. But it's not horrible. This is looking pretty bad for me though now. I do not want to use the treasure from the sailor on a red cap melee. Oh. Could see my opponent putting me into a position where I need to do that though. Am I holding back now so I can double block? This is... We are very far behind. And that kind of does happen when you mold twice, but... It feels so bad. Please don't make me red cap melee. They're gonna make me do it. Yeah, if that thing declares an attack, they're getting a bonus goblin now. I'm not gonna do it. Show me the combat trick and ruin my life. I will red cap melee if they show me a combat trick here. Because then there's like 100% absolutely no choice. Alright. I was going to say otherwise it is pretty monumentally important to try to keep this treasure. Okay. They're down to 3 cards in hand. I can block there, block there. Karizev actually gets in this turn. Bloom Hulk 4/4. Not into that. 3 lands away now. I no longer have attacks for Karizev. But that means Hullbreaker or Fearful Villager will flip, which means I do have a blocker for Bloom Hulk. Okay, that I don't know what that thing is, but we're dead, right? Everything has trample. They draw cards when they deal combat damage to us? Okay. I guess we're not technically dead. But that's really bad. That is what I would call very, very bad. I could stop them from drawing any cards if I block this Bloom Hulk with Werewolf and Sailor memes. We have a 3rd combat trick here. They've dumped 2 already. They could though, they had a full grip of 7 at the start here. No combat trick. Just choosing how to assign their damage. They're going to draw 1 card from the Bloom Hulk. What is the other one? Creature control game Menace and make me discard a card? Oh my god, I really hope they don't hit a black source. Looks like black is the splash from them though. Okay. Karn Silex is interesting. Karn Silex for 2 lets me keep my Sailor but blow up their whole board. No! Don't you swamp off the top me? Okay. They make me discard Hullbreaker Horror and Ghostlight now. Oh, they didn't cast it. What is in your hand then? Do they just want to buff the Dissident? Oh, they might just have combat tricks for lethal here. No, they're just gonna buff the Dissident. Okay. Okay. They could have made me discard Ghostlight Hullbreaker Horror, but they were like, nah, you're good. I appreciate that. Now I hit my Ghostlight mana. Boop in for 1. I still have a Silex that can blow up their 2-drop while leaving all of my 3 and 4 mana cards on board. Or 3 and 5 is what they are. Rhythm of the Wild. So their creatures can get haste or a +1/+1 counter, and they're going to choose haste here, put me to 1 life, unless I make this trade. Oh, kind of feels like we have to do that, but I need to blow up this Rhythm of the Wild. I need to blow up this Rhythm of the Wild, or they can just haste me to death with anything really easily. So actually, I think I just take it. 1 mana away from Hullbreaker Horror now, and we're gonna have to blow up everything that costs 3 or less. Which means our Sailor dies, their Rhythm dies, and their Dissident dies. Holding up Cancel mana. And now they have to have a creature that has natural haste to kill me. I probably just shouldn't have attacked with Ghostlight, because of how likely I am to win if I just hit 1 more land now. Or because of how my biggest chance to win is if I hit 1 more land now. Although it looks like it panned out. They had a Frostbite for my 3/2 anyway. If they cast Driven, I lose. If they don't cast Driven, I probably win. They didn't cast Driven. I guess they're on black. They could have instant speed removal. No instant speed removal. Alright. Hullbreaker Horror is on the board. Oh, I need to draw a spell. Oh, we drew a counter spell. That doesn't work. I mean, I guess it does. I guess it does if I don't attack. Yeah, that's better than cycling than hitting a land and dying to Driven. Or Despair. Yeah. It's better to use it as a counter than to try to cycle. Because I can just cycle into a land and die. Alright. No! Oh, I fought so hard. Oh, alright. 4-1 heading into round 6. Here we are now for game 6. We've got a Karn Silex to blow up their early threats, and then we can Scattered Thoughts and Ghostlight later. Ooh, they've got a 1-drop. Oh, we might get to blow up 3 things with this Silex. This could be pretty cool. We'll see. Come on, 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop me, but not so aggressively that I just die. Just aggressively enough that I get to Silex. Alright, they didn't play a 2-drop. That's not good. Silex is putting in less work than we wanted. No, they're a control deck. They're just going to play 1 card in the first 3 turns. So much for Silex. Alright, I guess we're on Scattered Thoughts and Completion here. Maybe it's still worth it just to put the Silex on the board just to disincentivize them from playing more threats. But it looks like they're stuck on mana at this point. I probably should have just played Silex last turn. Now that I have 4 mana though, it's definitely not the play, because we're on Scattered Thoughts as the play. Desperate Castaways, a 2/3, cannot attack unless they control an artifact, okay. We have 5 mana already, we can pick up the 6th and grab a shock. Better to do that or pick up the red dragon. And the 6th mana. You can probably land in red dragon here, and we're into Roman Ghostlight into red dragon. Start beating them up with flyers. They're pretty controlling colors. They might just have a ton of removal here. They do Vanquish the Weak, the flyer. How about the red dragon now that you're tapped out of a counterspell? Will this one stay? Blood Servitor, that is not removal. For now, it's going to stick around. Unless they have a Bone Splinters here for 1 mana. Something like that. Alright, Crack of Blood, look for some removal. Land for turn. Bognaughty, just a 5 mana 3/3 flyer. There's the Hullbreaker Horror as well. We need another mana to get to that. But that's obviously huge. Karn Silex can blow up their whole board without touching anything on mine. Might be moderately greedy, but I kind of want to just drop it. Got a Lightning Strike though. I can play Completion and Lightning Strike. Yeah, I'm going to play a Silex here. I'm holding up a Lightning Strike. If I don't need to Lightning Strike, I can Anticipate. And then if I don't hit a land next turn, I get to Silex. If I do hit a land, I get to Hullbreaker. Moving to combat, I can blow up the Servitor with Lightning Strike right now to just take 1 damage this combat. But then my Silex is a little less impactful. Still blow everything but my dragon up, so it's hard for them to play another good creature here, so I think I'm still going to Lightning Strike. Alright, I didn't have a counterspell, so that's fine. If I did, I probably would not have Lightning Strike there. But opponent's playing it smart, playing around the counterspell, if I did have one. Did not hit the land. I can Silex it up here. Or I can play a Celebrance. 2 for 1 Silex is perfectly fine. I can also just hold up a Prying Eyes now, draw 4. It's going to be really hard not to hit 1 land for Hullbreaker Horror off of that. Reaper of Night, make me discard 2 cards? Well, I'll discard a Redcap Melee and Anticipate. Might as well Prying Eyes first. Well, yeah, we hit the lands. We did hit the lands there. If they have removal for Hullbreaker Horror, that will be pretty bad. Try to draw it out with Celebrance here. Get the 2 for 1 and drop the Celebrance. If I can get to 9 mana, maybe I should have kept some of those lands, because if I get to 9 mana, I can play a Hullbreaker and hold up and Anticipate. Eldritch Reborn. Alright, we got 1 removal spell out of the way. They have 3 cards left in their hand. Fingers crossed. Discard this mountain, play Hullbreaker in the end step. Hopefully playing Hullbreaker in the end step means even if they do have removal, they don't play it this turn. Perfect. And now we're going to have multiple Anticipates and Tamiyo's Completion up to protect the Hullbreaker Horror. Perfect. We get a creature Planeswalker from the grave onto the battlefield. None of them destroy something, though, when they hit the board. Yeah, there's like Red Dragon would be the scariest, I think. Put Reaper of Night back in their hand. I don't really want to get Harvest Feared again right now. Probably wait till they're attacking at least. And then I have probably Tamiyo's Completion it after Eldritch Reborn triggers. They have to take something from their own graveyard, otherwise I can put whatever they put on the board into my hand. Yep, they take their Vampire of the Dire Moon, because if they take one of my cards, it's going to go back to my hand. That way they have a death-touching blocker to try to use on Hullbreaker Horror. I kind of like burying the Reaper in books. I guess I can do that when it's attacking for cheaper. Why am I trying to do that right now? Okay, Vampire of the Dire Moon is back. Charity Extractor for a life-linking blocker, sure. That card is very fine. And an Expedition Skulker, they're going to tap out here. If they are tapped out, then now is a perfectly fine time to complete the Vampire, bounce the most expensive card. And then I still have 3 cheap instants to protect Hullbreaker Horror from getting killed. I can even do some really cheeky things where I can bounce my Tamiyo's completion to put it on something else. Flowstone Infusion targeting Vampire the Dire Moon, bouncing Tamiyo's completion. Yeah, we want to bounce that Gravedigger, so let's anticipate and bounce that back to hand. Sailor of Means, sure. They don't have the mana to play Gravedigger again. Vidalian Mindsinger. That doesn't do anything when it hits the board. Okay, gain control of their own card. Now we Flowstone Infusion that and bounce the other one. I could also do the cheeky thing where I pick up the Tamiyo's and put that on one of them, but this is already lethal, so we'll just make it lethal here. Hullbreaker Horror wins it again. It's just all Hullbreaker Horror, all game. I'm pretty sure I said that exact statement last time, but Hullbreaker Horror just melts my mind. We're 5-1 now. We are officially in the money. Just going to Crabraveville. Game 7, let's go. Game 7, here we go. Our main deck red cap melee. Let's cross our fingers and hope for a mountain from our opponent. We did it. We got one. Alright, Fireblade Charger, that not big enough to get red cap melee. That's just going to trade into my Fissure Wizard and make me a little sad. Double red, mono red. Is it the perfect matchup for red cap melee? Could have postponed that trade for a bit and just started hitting them for a couple damage a turn. I don't know though. I should have played Mountain so I could cast both of these. Probably don't need to play both of these in one turn, but maybe I would. They are still mono red. That's scary. But mono red that doesn't play anything on turn 2 or turn 3, not that scary. Maybe they're just stuck on mana here. Scattered Thoughts is going to be beautiful for us, get us the hookup. We've got 5 lands already, so I just need to hit 1 land there to get to Red Dragon. And outside of that, we can just look for big win conditions like our Ghostly Bounce Dork. That is the official name. And the Crabrave Machine. Hullbreaker Horror. I remember Hullbreaker Horror. I don't remember Ghostly Bounce Dork's name. Alright, I'm going to take 3 so I can still cast this Scattered Thoughts. I can take some damage here. Carry Zeb is pretty fine by me. If I didn't hit a 7-drop here, I'm not that concerned about mana. Kind of cool just taking an Anticipate, honestly. I'm just not really worrying about playing Red Dragon turn 6. Guaranteed. Oh, it's guaranteed again now that I drew Sailor of Means. And I have a red cap melee if something really nasty happens. Honestly, I'd prefer not to spend the treasure, but again, it's one of those positions. If I have to spend the treasure, I will. Sushi. They're gonna get 3 treasure tokens, or they're gonna draw 3 cards they can only play for 1 turn. I don't think it's worth spending the treasure token because I can just spend the treasure during my turn if I need to. Yeah, they're gonna get some cards here because I am not gonna play red dragon over red cap melee here. Maybe they get some treasure. Maybe they're stuck on mana and this hits their second color for them. No, they are just mono red. I like it. Oh, they've got the Kumano Faces Kakazan as well. We're just playing a mono red standard deck here. What is going on? Spooky. I should not have attacked. I don't know why I attacked with the 1/4. That was a big brain fart. Dealing 1 extra damage to my opponent was not worth taking 3 extra damage. Big brain fart. Kumano Faces Kakazan spooky enough to counter Veiling Winds? I doubt it, because I can Lightning Strike it once it's a creature. Although maybe I'm just Lightning Striking this Keldon Strike team at this point because I went through with the stupid attack. Freet Flame Painter. That I think I countered. They have no instants or sorceries in grave yet, but they can cast an instant in response to this thing being about to hit me to double it up. Yeah, no, that's spooky. I'll counter that. It's also going to be a 2/5, or no, they didn't get to part 2 of the saga, so it still was just going to be a 1/4 double strike, but still scary. Still scary. Alright, attack worked out for us. Opponent does not crack back. We've got a Bury in Books now. Probably playing the red dragon here. And attacking both because I'm going to have a 4/4 dragon. Come on out, red dragon. Now, as long as we don't draw the 1/7 drop, that was a pretty solid time to use the treasure token. The live totals are 15-8, but you never know what can happen against the mono red deck. Haji mob, that's not that scary. It's a big, beefy mob. But it doesn't have haste. And we've got a Bury in Books for it, which I think we want to do right now so that they don't have a double block for our menace threat. We might just kill them with this lightning strike though. If I can hit them for 5, I kill them with lightning strike, and I think I can hit them for 5 if I attack all, because that's 3 creatures coming at them, one of which has menace. Right? Like 4 damage guaranteed, but then 3 other creatures, one of which has menace. Yeah, that's a guaranteed 5. Because even if they block like this, that's 5 damage to them. And then 3 more to the face. Yeah, almost mislethal here, but I found it. I got there. And we're going to be 6-1 now with this absurd deck here. Excellent, excellent stuff. Only game that we've dropped so far was the Multi-5 against the aggro deck on the play. So we are 6-1 heading into the final boss, what could be the final game of Magic for today, but we've got breathing room. Even if we lose, we've got 2 shots at making it to a 7-win run in the final Magic 30 Mixed Up Premier Draft event. Here we are in what may be the final boss, what may be the final game of Magic. Kind of a rough hand here. The Aether Hub only going to provide us that red mana 1 time. We definitely need to hit a mountain, but if we do, then this is a pretty viable hand. This is a sketchy keep, but I'm going to roll with it. Last time we had a hand like this, I ended up mulliganing down to 5 and getting pretty punished for that. So hopefully we can do the opposite here. We can keep the hand and get rewarded. Opponent starts with a Crawl Harpooner. That is a 3-power creature for only 2 mana. That is terrifyingly large, and I'm going to Harness Lightning that here. The thing that's really nice about this little combo is that the Harness Lightning is going to make sure we still have 1 energy left to get a red mana out of the Aether Hub again on a future turn. So we get to kill the Harpooner and still have a red up for 1 more of these spells until we hit a mountain. Tapping at the window, just looking for a creature from the top several cards of their library and playing a land. Alright, cool. We do not hit a red source. It's getting really sketchy. I don't think it's worth playing one of these and not having red mana available for Lightning Strike. Worth shooting Diagraph Scavenger. We know they have a 1/1. That could be a 2/2. Probably is. I mean, a 2/3 Death Toucher. I think I'm still not going to commit until I hit a mountain, because if I hit a mountain here, I can still double up on red spells. If I don't, I might still want to wait on this Lightning Strike until they cast the Survivor, because maybe they'll try to put a counter on the Scavenger. And then we can get more damage off their board. Alright, fingers crossed, no trick from them here. That would be the heavy punishment for this. Alright, no trick. So pretty nice play against the revealed Dauntless Survivor there. And now they're just tapping at the window again, so they're not playing another creature this turn. Just a 1/1 out. They'll play a 2/1 in the future. The mana has played out devastatingly poorly for us here. Single mountain, I think we are highly in the lead. We've still got time to draw it. We're only under 3 damage a turn of pressure, and there's the mountain. I think we can turn this in our favor now. I still have Burying Books for only 3 mana, so I can play a 2-drop and still hold that up. Kinda interested in Fissure Wizard here. Maybe discard the Nefcrop Entangler, try to make sure we hit land 6 and 7 to get towards the Hullbreaker Horror. Although carries that as the best blocker. That holds them off of their attacks and probably draws a removal spell from our opponent. I'm decently interested in seeing if I can pull a removal spell from my opponent's hand. So I mean, if they attack with everybody, we'll just make the blocks and Burying Books in response to a combat trick, if that is the plan. Alright, well I'm ready to bury this boar into a book. Although on board I kill the Survivor, but there's no way they make this attack if they don't have a trick, so I'd rather them try to throw a trick at the boar. Dang it. Should have blocked the Survivor. Because that would get them to play the trick no matter what. Maybe it's just destroy a creature that's been damaged this turn? Oh, it is. 1 extra damage? Wow! Opponent outplayed me hard there by attacking with the Survivor. That was a really smart play from my opponent. Because if they didn't attack with the Survivor, I mean, I probably still would have made the block if they only attacked with Boar. But not attacking with the Survivor would make it seem like it was just like any combat trick. Attacking with the Survivor, or sorry, by attacking with the Survivor, they made it seem like it was a combat trick that was like +3/+3, that no matter where I blocked, I'd get my creature killed. But by attacking with both, I don't know what I'm saying. My brain is mush. My brain is mush, but they baited me there. By attacking with both, I thought for sure it was going to be like +3/+3, +4/+4, and it wouldn't matter which way I blocked. But it actually did. It was one where it did matter where I blocked. Anyways, let's play a Villager and hold up the Burying Books, I guess. Fissure Wizard might have been the better play there, because it would help us make sure we hit the 7th land here and just 100% know we're hitting the Hullbreaker. Looks like no tricks from our opponent, and I think if they had removal, they probably would have shot the... Oh my god!
I require servants.
I guess we lose. Oh, Deck, you're so funny. Alright, well, if I Fissure Wizard, I would have been able to counter Liliana. That's obviously a massive hindsight play, though, because there's one counterspell in the deck. So not statistically that likely things would have played out that way. But our deck is an absolute memer today. That's so brutal. This is our karmic justice for all of the games we've won off of our Hullbreaker Horror. And we get to lose to Liliana, an arguably just as absurd card. I don't think I'd say she's better, and I wouldn't say she's worse. Hullbreaker Horror is pretty much unbeatable. Liliana's pretty much unbeatable. When they fight against each other, Hullbreaker Horror... Actually, whichever one resolves first wins, and Liliana resolves first, so Liliana wins. If Hullbreaker would have resolved first, we could have beat Liliana. But... didn't hit our lands on curve here. Got the Hullbreaker mana now. Can play it in their end step. Then do what we can. Which isn't going to be enough, but... maybe just barely. If we stack up enough bounces at the right times, we can find a way to kill Liliana, and then slowly but surely try to turn the game in our favor. It's going to be really, really difficult, but this game isn't technically an insta-scoop yet, especially because it is the last time that I'm going to be drafting these mixed up Premier drafts, so these are the last couple games we'll be playing. So opponent gets to draw infinite cards because they have like 50 creatures on board and they draw a card when any of them die. Maybe I can mill my opponent out. They're at 17 cards right now. They could get lower. They already used Liliana, so they can't minus Liliana to kill my Horror. But if they have a removal spell in their hand, they still have 4 mana up to use it and kill this. I still think I'd rather do this in the full-on end step and just trade here. Or maybe take 3. I'm going to take 3 for now. Alright, well, looks like it wouldn't matter because they're still holding up all their mana. Okay. If it's a sorcery speed removal spell, then it mattered here. Each opponent sacrifices a permanent they control of each permanent type, or chooses one of each permanent type sack threats. So they blow up all of my lands. Okay, so I have to bounce Liliana or I die to the ultimate. Which means I have to infusion some kind of dork. I guess the boar is their strongest dork, and then I need to put Liliana back in their hand. Because I can't kill Liliana with these creatures. I can kill a lot of their creatures, though, if I attack Liliana. Kill 3 of their creatures. They don't attack back for lethal, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. But I kill one with infusion. Try to kill a bunch of their creatures here, and then just bounce Liliana anyway. No. Because then they replay Liliana in -4. Okay. If I were not recording, I would not be thinking this hard. I would have scooped by now. Because, yeah, come to think of it, it's like even if I bounce Liliana, she just comes back, and with this many creatures on board, makes me sack the Horror if I lose either of these. We probably still just lose, but make every play that maybe doesn't lose. Still going to try to do the best I can here. I do get to counter the Liliana, maybe? What is going on here? They're just going to kill my wizard while they can? Sure. I can counter the Liliana. Okay. No, this is reasonable. Hullbreaker Horror is really good with counter spells. I wasn't giving it that credit. I was not giving it that credit. Okay. We could draw out of this. I think our opponent's still in the lead despite Hullbreaker Horror being on the board. Okay, we lose. Now we cannot draw out of it. Now we are far behind. instead of just a little behind. Still playing it out here, but things look real bad. I don't know why the audio glitched out. The sound effects and everything. The audio's still on, it's just not playing half the sound effects. Wow, they got precipitous drop as well for removal for the flyer. They just still have 1,000 things to play around with here. I guess that's what happens when Liliana goes uncontested for a few turns. They did draw a lot of extra cards. They've drawn 6 more cards than us this game. Even after we shoved one back in their library. No matter what we play here, we still die, so... 6 and 2, it is. A little bit of karmic justice there. We got absolutely bombed out of that game by a pretty ridiculous Liliana. The justice for all of the poor opponents who got Hullbreaker Horrored out of the game. Alright, here we are in the final game, the final boss. No matter what, we're on the play with both of our colors. Anticipate to set up the hand. Aerial Guide as the first play on turn 3. We're going to keep this one. See if it can take us all the way to a 7-win run here. In the final game of Magic of the mixed up Premier Drafts and the final game of Magic for the day. And I need to go feed the cats after this recording. A little while past their dinner time. Alright, opponent is going to reluctantly keep, I assume, if they thought that long on it. But they could have just been AFK. Ooh, turn 2 Kari Zev is a beautiful draw. Just get this ball rolling and just start beating our opponent's face if we can. They're on mono blue so far, just 2 islands. One of the slowest colors in Limited. Hopefully this means we do just get to try to steamroll them real quick here and get our 7th win without much resistance. Alright, they're on blue-red as well. We've got the Hullbreaker Horror for late game. I'd like to anticipate right now in case I draw a 2-drop to play this turn. I do, a Fissure Wizard. I don't know what I want to discard. Oh, I can choose not to. I think I'm not going to discard. If it were draw then discard, I'd still do it, but because it's discard then draw, I'm going to choose not to do this because I know I want to play land 5-drop next turn, and I definitely don't want to discard Hullbreaker Horror. So opponent is down to 12 already, but they have their red source now, meaning they could blow up our Kari Zev. And they are going to do that with a Moonrager Slash. They're still taking 4 damage a turn, down at 12 life currently, and with Falconwrath Celebrants on board, we're going to have a 4/4 Menacer out. We're also getting 2 blood tokens we can use to discard non-lands to make sure we can help get to the Hullbreaker Horror on turn 7, but we're already at 6 out of 7 mana for that. Everything about this game feels really, really good right now. It would take something astronomical to turn things around entirely. But who knows? Crazy things can happen in the mixed-up Premier Draft. There's the Sai, Master Thopterist. If our opponent casts some artifacts here, they can get a lot of creatures down, but no artifacts. That is still going to block Fissure Wizard all day. With Lightning Strike, our opponent's at essentially 1 life right now. Meaning that is another card I don't want to discard to these blood tokens, and I don't want to discard the land either because I'm 1 mana away. If I could sacrifice my Fissure Wizard to draw a card with a blood token, I would, but these cards on board, or these cards in hand, I don't want them to change. Yeah. Let's draw. Countervailing Winds. That's still pretty reasonable here. I don't think I'm cycling that either. Probably just passing the turn, holding this up. I'll cycle it away in their end step if they don't try to cast anything. It seems reasonable to have that for now. Bait Hook Angler, well, I can't counter that. Okay. I think I do cycle it away now. Burying Books, I don't need that either. And there we go, keep that. And pass the turn. say the Hullbreaker Horror in their end step. They can't counter it, and I doubt they have enough damage to blow it up. And now we still have the Lightning Strike to cast once the Hullbreaker Horror is on board. They play a Balmor Battle Mage Captain, fine by me. And we'll play a Hullbreaker Horror in the end step. Then we Lightning Strike Balmor, return side of their hand, call it a game. They're just going to scoop them up right now. They don't even want to see what I've got in hand to win this game. It's going to be 7-2. Beautiful final run for the mixed up Premier Drafts, playing as much games of Magic as possible. You may think my mulligan to 5 was greedy that one game, but hey, if I didn't do that, maybe if I won that game, I wouldn't have gotten to play 9 games of Magic today. So there's that. Or I already don't remember the other loss. My memory, as I said before, I have the memory of a grape. Don't know why that is what comes to mind. But yeah, I'm sure my other loss I also could have won. Oh yeah, the loss against Liliana. If I found out the line that I should have done the moment that I didn't do it, as I often do, I was like, no, I should probably have Fissure Wizard, discarded the Nephcrop Entangler to try to hit a land to get closer to Hullbreaker Horror. Now, I wouldn't have hit a land, but what I would have hit if I did that line was the Countervailing Winds, and I would have had Countervailing Winds up for the first time they cast Liliana, so Liliana just wouldn't have resolved, and we probably would have just won that game. So super uber punished that game as well. So I think both of our losses were games that we likely could have won with some better lines, but luckily for us, the deck is so good, and Hullbreaker Horror is such a busted card. We're still going to make it to a 7-win run by the skin of our teeth, a 7-2 run. Excellent, excellent deck. Everything was great. Not even going to look at the over and underperformers. It's, I guess I will, because I usually do. But it's all beautiful. It's all beautiful. Biggest underperformer was Karn Silex, but I think part of that was because I didn't play it right. I think with this deck, with the really big win condition of Hullbreaker Horror late game, it's actually pretty nice to just play this out to disincentivize your opponent from playing more creatures. So you just put this on the board, and then your opponent's like, well, I don't want to play creatures into this. So it just really glacially slows the game down and gives me infinite time to just sit there drawing cards and trying to dig out the horror and then win the game with that later anyway. So I think I should have played this much more aggressively and just kept putting it on the board. But yeah, everything else, self-explanatory. I mean, I literally never played the Nephcrop Entangler, I think. So that was pretty bad. I mean, our 2-drops were not great. Fissure Wizard wasn't great either. Fearful Villager was pretty filler. Some of our creatures were kind of filler, but love our high mana cost cards. Love all of our non-creature spells. Love the deck overall. There you go. There's your over and underperformers for your mixed up Premier Draft. But that is going to end today's video, and that is going to end the Magic 30 Mixed Up Premier Draft Celebration event for me. I hope you enjoyed all these drafts as much as I enjoyed playing them. We've got... if you'd like the YouTube algorithm to send you some more of these videos, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let it know to do so. We've got some great stuff on the horizon. There are Crimson Vow quick drafts on right now. I'm going to do one tomorrow for Halloween. And then we have Dominaria, the original Dominaria sealed events on Arena right now. So I'll be doing a few of those in practice for the Dominaria sealed Arena Open. That I think is like 1 week away at this point, maybe 2. I think it's 1 week away. There's a Dominaria sealed Arena Open, original Dominaria, so that'll be some cool stuff. So Crimson Vow, Dominaria, other goodies, Chromatic Cube draft they're going to have on for a little bit. Really cool limited stuff on the horizon, excited for all of that, and of course, the next Magic set, Brothers War, when that launches, I'll be playing plenty of that set as well, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in any of it. But as always, with that whole spiel out of the way, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.